I'm going to say something about Tiffany. I know Tiffany's going to go ahead. I'm a big fan of CMTC, and that's not just because they sponsor the series for Tech San Diego, but I know how much they've helped our members on manufacturing. And when you look at bios rarely tell you what someone does. So I'm going to introduce Tiffany using my own bio. And what I can tell you about Tiffany is Tiffany will help you access CMTC resources and other resources to help your company stay efficient. Most of these are subsidized by taxpayer funds, where we all pay way too much in taxes, so you might as well take advantage of it. So if you need some assistance on some manufacturing issues, go ahead and give Tiffany and see if she can route you to the right person to get you some help. A lot of the services are either subsidized or completely complimentary, so it's a good resource for manufacturing. Tiffany, why don't I turn it over to you, let you introduce CMTC in a much better way than I did, and then turn it over to our speaker.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tiffany Garcia. I'm one of your local client advisors here in San Diego County. California Manufacturing Technology Consulting has been around for 20 plus years. We provide services back to manufacturers. It's true, using your taxpayer dollars. And the way that we do that is we connect consultants that are experts in their field with your company to try and solve your many needs. I'm happy today to have somebody from the LA area, Lisa Rawcliffe, with Engage Forward. Lisa has over 17 years of manufacturing experience with progressive leadership roles in sales, continuous improvement, operations and quality. Prior to consulting, she served in various management roles in manufacturing companies that included contract food manufacturing, pharmaceutical packaging and distribution. We're lucky to have her now as a consultant here in Southern California. She's really focused on continuous improvement, continuous improvement culture that will improve the performance of your organizations, and also is a huge advocate for workforce development. So we are happy to have her. Let me know if you are interested in utilizing her services, and we can find some funding to support that here in San Diego County. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Lisa.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. And thanks for Tech San Diego for inviting me to share what I have today with all of you. So we'll get started. As Tiffany said, I do have a background in manufacturing. Admittedly, it was not a career of choice. It was a career of I fell into it. And when I fell into it, I realized, wow, what an amazing world that I've just entered into. And from that point, I've not looked back. So the experiences that I've had in manufacturing have just been rich with learning. I've worked with great leaders. I've worked with maybe some that weren't as great, but all along the way, all of my skills were developed. And I can say that the MEP network, of which CMTC is the California partner of the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, it was that nationwide partnership that really developed my skills and capabilities to have the success that I enjoyed, along with the people on our teams. And so I'm just here today to share some of that learning with you. So we're going to talk today about one of our greatest challenges that we're facing right now as manufacturers. The National Association of Manufacturers, they conduct a survey every quarter. If you're not familiar with this organization, it's a national organization. They have a lot of really good data that they pull from their membership, from manufacturers small to large and everything in between. And quarter after quarter, this aspect of attracting and retaining skilled workforce has always been at the top 1, 2, or 3 on the list. And this most recent survey that came out in the fourth quarter, almost 83% of them are saying that it's one of their biggest challenges, attracting and retaining a skilled workforce. We've been seeing this coming for years now. What was called the silver tsunami, the impending retirement of baby boomers, the economy shifts and changes, but then the pandemic just brought this to a whole new level, with people stepping back, reconsidering their life, and looking at different ways to sustain their needs for themselves or their families and what they do every day for work. So we're seeing a massive shuffling of the deck in the workforce, from entry level all the way through very senior leadership positions. Consistently, we're seeing a major turn happening. So manufacturers are looking at what can they do to be able to attract and retain the talent that they need in order to not only survive, but to thrive in this new world and new economy that we're facing. Some additional data from this survey, one of the questions, and people could select more than one response, so it doesn't add up necessarily to 100%, but the primary current business challenges that were expressed, 87% are saying raw material, and we can all recognize and feel for that, the supply chain challenges. But then third on the list is this attracting and retaining a quality workforce. Additional concerns are expressed here, the transportation, the rising healthcare costs. I think they're looking at expecting around an 8% increase. The people who surveyed responded with that anticipation. So there's some significant challenges in our way. Looking at these ones with attracting and retaining workforce is something that we can start to work for today, and things that we can do to focus in on that. Out of this survey group, 85% of them had positions that were unfilled, and they're struggling to find qualified applicants. So I'm not sure if that is consistent with the people on this call today and what your experience is, but Tiffany can probably also confirm that through the people that we serve through CMTC, we're finding that to be very much a true statement across the board, regardless of the industry, the sector of manufacturing, or the size of the company, that everybody has positions that are open and they're struggling to fill them. So what impact is this having on our business? Well, from those surveyed, nearly 45% of them are saying that they're unable to take on new business and they've lost opportunities because they don't have a workforce. And 71% cited negative impacts on their deliverables, their delivery timeframes, their quality, their production. So it's having an impact on the operation as well as growth and new business opportunities. So knowing this impact is severe, it's not something that we can just have a wait and see approach, and I don't think anybody is, but we want to know what can we do specifically to work towards meeting this condition. So when we step back and we say, well, what is it that we want from our workforce? We want people that show up and they're ready for work, must be present to win. We want people that work well with others. We don't want drama. We want people that know how to work as a team and be productive, be able to give constructive feedback and receive constructive feedback, and keep striving towards a better condition every day. We want people that know what to do. They want to be able to be effectively trained in the job so that they are able to perform the task as requested. And they want to know how to do their work and not make mistakes, not generate scrap or defect or have to deal with rework. And we want people to make best use of the resources and work efficiently. And ideally, if we can have people solve the majority of their own challenges, so they're not always elevating and escalating problems to their supervisor or manager and creating a bottleneck of those things, the more we can empower people to solve their own challenges, the stronger our workplace will be. And if we can also then strive towards having more of the people on the team striving towards our strategic goals, then we can really assign our priorities and get more of that capacity working in a strategic way, in addition to taking care of the cares of the day. So if we are striving for a good workday, there's a cost that we can associate to what it means when we have a bad workday. So if we're having high turnover and absenteeism, for an entry-level position, you're talking about a third of their annual salary is the loss that happens when you have turnover for an entry-level position. And if you have, say, a 20% annual turnover in that entry-level role, you're paying upwards of possibly around $80, $90, $100,000 a year of loss just because of that turnover. So there's some statistics on here, and I think this deck may be available to if you want to look at some of the details of that. If you have supervisors that are having to deal with, personnel issues or conflicts or dealing with time and attendance and things like this, those issues that supervisor is addressing is costing you, around $5,000 or $5,500 a year just spending 30 minutes a day dealing with these types of issues. So if we can have people working well with others and eliminate that time spent, then you're going to recover that cost to something that's much more productive. Again, with people, if it's a bad work day and they don't really know what to do, or have a direction or priority, or they're waiting for direction, then if they're spending 30 minutes a day delaying, waiting for direction, then the cost is there, a little under $2,000 a year per person. When it takes a long time to train people, there's a huge cost associated with that. This will affect our productivity, and it limits our capacity. When people are in a period of training, we kind of have conditioned ourselves to anticipate lower than targeted production from a person in that learning role. But this is affecting what we're getting out the door, and it can also affect our retention rates. When it takes a long time to train a person, that they're kind of in a vulnerable position, they may or may not stay in the company. If they feel that they're not confident that they're going to be able to do the job well, they may look for an easier path for employment rather than feeling unsure of themselves every day while they're learning. Impact on service and delivery. When people are learning, or you're having even if someone's not learning how to do a job, but say you have a 20% defect rate in your workplace, that rate is really affecting your cost of each unit, and it's eating up a lot of capacity, because not only is it the defect that is missed opportunity, but the correction of that, or the replacement of that part or that defect, is also consuming capacity. So there's a significant impact when people are not generating good quality parts the first time. Whereas on a good work day, we want people to be able to work error-free. Not having efficient processes, that's fairly obvious to most of us, but looking at the multiplier fact here, if we can take a defect rate from 20% down to 2%, we'll improve our overall production output by 119%. And that'll reduce our labor cost per part by 54%, using the examples of cost as shown on the screen here. So it's not always just a one-for-one. When you reduce your defect rate, there's a significant increase to output and reduction of cost when those are mitigated. And supervisors or managers getting burned out from firefighting all the time, playing the industrial whack-a-mole game every day, solving problems and feeling like you come in the next day and you're solving them again. If people are getting burnt out and they end up leaving, it's going to be a huge hit to that replace that supervisor. Generally, at that level, you're looking at 150% of their annual salary. And if you have someone in a supervisory role, maybe that frontline supervisor role at $54,000 a year, that could be $81,000 of loss because of that turnover. And if they're spending all their time, 2 hours a day solving problems for their teams, and when we look at 2 hours a day, it's not always all at once. Sometimes it's these incremental stoppages that happen in our day that we're constantly addressing issues for our teams. And that other people in the team are able to solve more of their own problems, then you would have a savings of almost $13,000 a year, because people are more capable of handling them themselves and not occupying supervisor capacity to do so. And then last but not least, sometimes with our strategic goals of the organization, there may be a small handful of people at the top of the organization that really are aware of and thinking about the strategy of the organization. But if we can expand that view and have a tangible, productive way to connect people to those strategic goals every day, then we are increasing our capacity to be working towards meeting those goals. So that we have a way of helping people to learn how to prioritize their improvements and to be able to make their own contributions to those strategic goals individually, and not necessarily rely on the small number of people at the highest levels of the organization to be carrying that weight forward. So just a chart summarizing, the cost of a bad day. We want to be converting ourselves from this left side of the chart over to the right side, where people do show up and they work well with others and they know what to do and how to do it, and they're not making scrap or defect, and they're efficient and they can solve their own challenges, and people can be working towards the strategic goals and assigning priorities. So using the data from the National Association of Manufacturers, different manufacturers are doing different things. With addressing the fact that 85% of them have unfilled positions, Some people are addressing this by increasing their amount of internal training programs, so skilling up the existing workforce. Others are reaching out to temporary staffing services, and they're getting mixed results with that, right? Because you have a person now that is being brought to you, and they may be vetted or proven out to be adequately prepared for the role, but you're still going to need to be able to train them about your own organization and your own processes. Also collaborating with educational institutions. So the partnerships that was spoken of earlier in the opening of this session, those relationships are very powerful and important for us to maintain and build upon so that we have connection with this. And 41% of these surveys, our respondents have surveyed saying that they are making those partnerships and working together with educational institutions. CMTC has a podcast coming up. I think in April it should be released, but we talk about workforce development and we go into that area a little bit more in discussion, so you can keep an eye out for that. I think it's called Shifting Gears. And then the employers are also actually asking retirees to just stay a little bit longer, to hold us over until we find out what we're going to do to replace you. And that's not ideal for anyone, particularly for the person who wants to retire, but it is a tactic that is being used and applied, and we run into this quite often. So other companies are, nearly 70% are showing that they've had to significantly increase their pay in order to be competitive to local market conditions. So there's been a paradigm shift. Employers used to be more in the mode of feeling like they had the cards in their hand, and that we felt fortunate that we were able to work for a certain employer as the job applicant. But now the applicants are the ones holding the cards, and they are being very critical and selective of who they sign on for because they have lots of opportunities. In order to compete, some people are increasing their compensation offering, which is great for the person seeking a job, but it puts another strain on the organization to keep that up. But we are seeing a massive uptick in wage growth in anticipation of that to continue. So what we want to talk about today is looking at addressing the skills shortage by looking at training programs that you can do internally, and it would also help you to prepare for people that are going to be coming in and joining your organization. How can you empower your team to be able to receive those new hires and to be able to onboard them quickly into roles that are productive and bringing value to the organization? So in my experience of working in manufacturing, I quickly came to realize that the greatest power I had in my organization for leverage was those people that are closest to making and adding value for our customers. So that's the frontline workforce and the people that lead them. As a plant manager, it was very clear right away that if I didn't have productive relationships and a good, strong team and that frontline leadership, then the rest of the operation was going to reflect the readiness and capabilities of that frontline leadership team. So we gave a particular focus on building up the capabilities and strengths of the people in this aspect of our team. What we find is that some people are brought into this role of supervisor because they've been working with the organization for a period of time. They've proven out their skills and their capabilities. They may be excellent technical people. They know their processes. They're very experienced. They have a tremendous amount of tribal knowledge. So we honor their good work and their work ethic and their commitment to the company, and we offer them a promotion to become a supervisor. And this is great because it's a great way to put real meaning in showing respect for that individual, for their contributions. But becoming a supervisor is not just doing what you did before. It's picking up and requiring a new set of skills on that person, because they're not just doing the work anymore. Now they are leading a team of people that they need to be able to get the results from those people on the team to do what they used to do before. So it's not always the path of every supervisor, but we find a majority of them have come into this position having grown up through the organization, if you will. We recognize that good supervisors have 5 fundamental needs, and it's broken up into knowledge and into skill. So for knowledge, there's a knowledge of work and there's a knowledge of responsibilities. And these are things that are learned in your industry, in your organization. When we think about knowledge of work, it could be the types of materials that you work with or the machines or processes in the industry and the nuances of each industry. And then the knowledge of responsibility could be things that come with a regulatory environment like AS 9100 or any of the ISO programs or food safety and FSMA, SQF. So, and of course, OSHA, right? So knowledge of responsibilities is something that will be learned and developed with experience in those environments. But there's also skill that good supervisors need. And skills are great because they can be learned and taught and practiced. And so we are going to be focusing in today talking a little bit about these skills and how can we strengthen this level of supervision in our organization. So good supervisors need to have a skill of instructing. How do they share all this amazing knowledge and experience that they have? How do they multiply that with the people on their teams? And that is a whole new skill of its own. There may be people that are very good at what they do. They know how to operate the process, but they may struggle with how do I effectively share that knowledge with other people and so that they can make use of it. Good supervisors also need to have a skill of leading. As a supervisor, how do I get results through the people on the team? I really can't be successful in my role if every time something comes up, I kind of elbow them out of the way and say, let me just do it for you. That's not really getting results through the people, and it's not building their capabilities. So good supervisors need to learn how to lead and how they can inspire people for those results, and also how they can prevent and handle people problems that come up. If you ask any supervisor what's the least favorite part of their job, some of them will reflect on some of these issues of dealing with the people-related problems. Well, there's a skill that we can teach and we can develop with that individual to be able to prevent and then handle those problems in a way that is much more effective, it's more consistent, and it yields better results for everyone. Good supervisors also need to know how to improve methods. So every day we have people coming into work to do the work, but we also want to empower people to come in every day and also improve the work. What improvements can we identify any day to see how we can make this process safer, faster, yield better quality, and improve our methods? So we have a program to develop those skills of improving methods. And last but not least, there's a skill of scientific thinking. This is teaching an individual how to look at a problem or a challenge in front of them and think scientifically about how to approach it, rather than a shotgun approach where we kind of blast everything at it at once and see what happens. We want to funnel people's attention into thinking more scientifically about this. Last but not least, though, through whether it's knowledge of work and responsibilities or all of these skills, good supervisors are always keeping in mind safety. So people can't learn how to do a new job or be led or improve methods or think scientifically if they're not operating in a safe work environment. So good supervisors are always focused on maintaining and improving a safe work environment. So there's this program that was generated out of the necessity of World War II, and it's called Training Within Industry. So we use this acronym TWI, and that's what it means, Training Within Industry. And if you think about what was happening just prior to the war, American manufacturing was humming right along and we're making good stuff and lots of it, and all of a sudden a war breaks out. And now we have to ship our entirely skilled and experienced workforce are now having to serve as warfighters overseas. But yet all of those warfighters need supplies, materials, airplanes, ammunition, MREs, boots, medical supplies. Who's going to make them? Because we just took our entire skilled workforce and shipped them out. So Rosie the Riveter is sort of the poster child of this program because it was the actual inspiration of why this program was developed. We were in a condition where we urgently and needed to develop a brand new workforce from people that were completely unfamiliar with this environment, with these processes, with everything about it was new to them. And we needed to quickly bring them in to be productive, to be safe, and to yield good quality finished goods on time, because literally lives were depending on it. So today we may find ourselves feeling like we're very much in a similar condition. We're trying to survive with our business, and we still need to ship good quality products on time and do it safely. But here, back in World War II, there was the added layer of actual lives of our family members were contingent upon our success of having good production. So this program, Training Within Industry, was developed by the U.S. government and industry partners together, and they focused in on that supervisor level of the organization because they knew that frontline leader is the person that the new person is going to be meeting for the first time when they come to work in this factory. And that supervisor is the person that's going to be shepherding a new hire into the organization, teaching them what needs to be done, how to do it, and all of these other methods. So with dealing with this, they created a program called Job Relations, which addresses that skill of leading. And they created a program called Job Instruction that teaches supervisors how to give good, effective, and fast on-the-job instruction. They also taught them how to improve methods using the Job Methods program. And beyond the scientific thing, beyond these three programs, after World War II, I would say in the last 15 years, we also recognize this additional skill of scientific thinking. So it's not part of the traditional TWI program, but we include it here for reference. And this is the Improving and Coaching Kata. And we'll talk about all four of these programs in depth. So the Job Relations program is having a supervisor be able to get results through the people on the team and preventing and handling people problems by using a simple 4-step method and some foundations of good relations. All of these programs are incredibly simple, yet as human beings, they're not something that we typically are finding ourselves naturally doing all the time with consistency, because when the pressure is on and we're in the heat of the moment, especially in manufacturing, our culture is like, get on with it and let's keep moving. So we don't always take the time to slow down just for a moment and have a standardized process of how we handle some things like this. So this program builds that process into our muscle memory and creates a pattern of thinking and acting for this supervisor so that it will become more automatic and it really won't slow them down. But it's a new pattern to begin. So the way we teach this program will help introduce and then reinforce that pattern. So as a result of this program, supervisors are able to prevent the problems within the team more effectively. And if problems do come up, they'll be able to work through them and create positive outcomes for everybody. This directly supports that positive workplace culture. And it's often said that when people leave an organization, they're leaving their direct manager more than they're leaving the company itself. So this relationship between this frontline leader and this other individual on the team is a very critical relationship. And when people go through this program, we do see an improvement in retention rates of companies. And also it will contribute towards attracting talent because overall the culture of the organization will just strengthen and be even more attractive for people. Our reputations outside of our walls are very strong, sometimes stronger than we recognize. And this will help people go home every day and say, today was a good day at work because I had a good relationship with my boss. Some symptoms that you might want to look at with the job relations program is if you are experiencing high turnover or absenteeism, if you expect to hire a lot of new people soon, if you're struggling with some morale issues or low levels of engagement, if your HR department or others are overloaded just sorting through personnel issues, and if you're having unproductive conflict, and worse yet, if you're having hotline calls, you might want to consider the job relations program. So I put a lot of pictures in here of Office Space, and if you haven't already seen that film, it's a real winner, but it's the perfect example of why you would need job relations. But we may be somewhere in that spectrum. It may not be as extreme as Office Space, but if we have any of those other elements here, you might want to consider a program like this. The job instruction program is a personal favorite of mine. This is really teaching leaders how to provide that effective on-the-job instruction. We have so many good people that know so well how to do their jobs, but they may not necessarily have this skill of being able to multiply this knowledge with others. So this program, again, is a handy-dandy 4-step method. Everything we do here is a handy-dandy 4-step method. And this has its own pocket card as well, where we present the instruction to the learner. And in doing so, in order to prepare for instruction, the person who's going to be giving the instruction prepares a job breakdown sheet. If you're familiar with lean manufacturing or the Toyota production system, this program of TWI job instruction is the actual foundation of what Toyota developed into what we know today as a standardized work instruction. So you may see some commonality to what you see on the screen with the important steps and the key points and the reasons. If you follow a similar format with your own standard work, this would be supportive of that. It would help you to be able to fill in any gaps if you have areas where you don't have standard work. So you are creating that one best way to do a job, and you're documenting it, and you're empowering the people to give effective training using this job breakdown sheet and the 4-step method shown on the blue card. So when you use this program, you do significantly shorten the amount of time it takes to train an individual, and you will see significant reduction of scrap and defect because the training is done very effectively and people are not generating those kinds of losses. And I have another graph at the end here that shows about the improving productivity. You will find that people with this training are quickly able to produce to or exceed your production targets. And it's a great way to be able to share the knowledge from the people that are so experienced and be able to multiply that across your teams. So if you have high turnover and absenteeism, that's going to mean that you're going to need to train people to replace them. And if you have a lot of people or some critical roles that are about to retire or wanting to retire and you haven't talked them into staying a little bit longer, then you want to empower them to share their knowledge with others using this skill. If the training that you're doing feels like you have it takes a long time to bring a person up to speed, then you might want to consider this because this does prove to shorten that amount of time. We're a big fan of the apprenticeship model, and if you have an apprenticeship program, with using this, you will make that program even stronger and more effective because the learning is so strong using this methodology. One of the first areas when I became a consultant that I was able to exercise this program was with an aerospace company that had an apprenticeship program, and they were asking me in to work with them regarding some of the soft skills or those employment skills. But we quickly got to a place where we recognized that the machinists were needing this skill of job instruction in order to be able to share their knowledge with the apprentices, and they saw incredibly strong results as a result of that. Okay, and then the job methods program. This is teaching the supervisors how to improve the work. How do you break down a job and then challenge every detail of the job and then create a new method that would eliminate, combine, and rearrange and simplify the processes. In this, we also teach people how to identify the improvements and experiment to make improvements to the method, and then propose those improvements to their manager or supervisor in such a way that they're speaking in the same language that management speaks. So we teach them about measurables and using metrics to show the amount of improvement and the impact. So we teach people how to create a simple, very simple one-page document of proposing your improvement idea and what the net benefits will be of it. So that's working in two ways. One, you're teaching people to think critically about improving the method and sorting out what's going to give the highest impact. And they're learning by creating this proposal. They're also furthering the learning about what's important to, let's say, the top leaders of the organization, how they look at the business and how they translate improvements. So we're really connecting that understanding with more people when we introduce them to this job methods program. If you're having a lot of scrap or defect, or you have a high cost of production because processes are not as efficient as you would like them to be, if you're finding you have bottlenecks or you have delays anywhere, or the process is difficult to train because it's fairly complex, then you might want to look at this program because it can improve many or if not all of those conditions. Here's just a quick example of some of the benefits that have happened with the job instruction and job relations program. So the traditional training method, very often we see someone get brought into an organization and they say, great, Joe over here, Joe's been training and working in this organization for about 30 years. So you, Miss New Hire, I would like you to come over and stand next to Joe for the next 3 months and just watch what he does and shadow Joe. And hopefully by magic and osmosis, you'll learn what he does and how he does it so that when he retires in 6 months, you can just step in and replace Joe's 30-year experience. And that's common, what we see in training methods, and there's other improvements upon that. But with traditional training, shadowing and telling someone how to do a job or showing them how to do a job, they were finding that they were, as a finished product, when that person goes to do the job, they were getting quality 28% of the time, and they were 71% efficient to their targets, and they only retained 61% of that knowledge at the end of that training. Conversely, when they use the TWI method with a similar population in the same organization, after using that method, the worker was able to reach a quality of 98% of the time, and they exceeded the production targets and were 119% efficient, and they retained over 92% of the knowledge that they were shared with in that training experience. So the likelihood of someone using the traditional method would need to be retrained and retrained again and still have to solve problems and answer questions was going to be a pretty high incident rate. Whereas when you trained them using the TWI method, you found that you could train them and then they were good to go. The last program is this improvement in coaching Kata, and this is not part of the TWI program, but it's something that we have mirrored the same approach with how we train it, because this skill of thinking scientifically has shown to be of a high need in the organizations today. We have our need for speed and how we satisfy our customers, we innovate new solutions to their problems. That intensity just continues to grow over time. It's a global marketplace now, and we need to be very effective in being first out with our innovation. So the more people we can develop in the organization that understand the business and can look at problems and challenges in front of them and think scientifically, we're going to have more success in our businesses. So what we have on the screen here is that we may have a goal in mind or a target condition, which is on the right-hand side. And on the left is where we are now. This is what we're aware of. This is our predictable zone. We know where all the furniture is. If you turn the lights off, we can navigate around. We know our business. We know the processes. We feel comfortable and we're here. And each one of us has a knowledge threshold somewhere. There's some wall in our understanding, our visibility about our organizations or our processes that we have a limit. There's a limit somewhere where our knowledge kind of ends, and what's beyond that limit is unknown. We're not really sure what's on the other side of that wall. But what we do know is on the other side of the wall is this challenge that we're striving for. So we have all this complexity, it's unclear, but we know we need to be where we need to be next, but we just don't know what's going to happen as we move forward. So we want to look at this and think scientifically and build this skill. If you ever feel like you're playing whack-a-mole every day, you may find that as you walk through your organizations, you might carry a notepad or Post-it notes, or you take a Sharpie and you write it on your arm, and you see things along the way. Oh, I see this problem. I have this idea. Someone asked me a question about this. I need to take care of this for someone else. And you end up coming back to your office with a whole table full of Post-it notes and scraps of paper and handwritten things of ideas, waste forms that you've identified, and we want to get to all of them. So in our current condition, we see what we see, and we may select things that we want to strive to work on based upon what we think we can fix. Oh, I think I can handle that because I can just get it out of the way and get it off my list. Or we may focus on what we believe that we could improve. And this all feels right and good, and we're very busy with it and we're working very hard, but it's exhausting. And if you ever had that experience where you have all of these Post-it notes on your desk and they just keep getting higher and higher, by the end of the week, you're just overwhelmed with all these things that you feel like you want to and need to address, but you don't feel like you're making the progress that you want, and thus the example of the whack-a-mole. There's another way that we can work towards this, and this is moving us away from troubleshooting and moving us toward a condition where we're striving for a specific target condition. So traditionally, we might look at our organizations and try to find all the forms of waste, all the things that are wrong, and start trying to get them off the list, try to deal with them and take care of them. When we use this improvement in coaching Kata routine, we instead focus on a target condition. This is the positive thing. This is what we're striving for, where we need to be, and we're focused on that. So if we have that in our view, and that is our focal point, then all of these other things that come up, you see an opportunity here, you see a problem over there, an idea comes up, you can keep them listed, but you're going to select carefully and critically what you're going to give time and attention to based upon its relativeness to that target condition. Is it an obstacle? Is it preventing me from reaching that target condition, that happy place that I'm striving towards meeting? So when you work this way, you're selective and you work one obstacle at a time and you overcome each one eventually until you reach that target condition. So what you find is that you do reach your goal. And yeah, there could be other scraps of paper and Post-it notes on our desk that remain, but if they really didn't show up as being something that's really in my way of preventing me from reaching this target condition, then maybe it's not critically important. And of course, the only exception to that would be anything regarding safety. Anything regarding safety we're going to address right away, regardless of target condition, because our target condition should always include a safe workplace. But striving in this way focuses on where we need to improve. And this is using a Kata, which is basically a routine or a pattern, something that we can exercise that becomes a habit. So this is the Kata. Again, so, surprise, it's a 4-step method. So we have to identify our challenge, and then we have to grasp where we are now. What is our current condition? And then we're going to pick a target condition somewhere in between where we are now and where we need to be, and let that be our focal point for our team, for ourselves, for our organization, and then start striving towards overcoming obstacles that we've identified that we believe are most in our way of achieving that target condition. And as we do this, we're moving our knowledge threshold forward with every experiment that we conduct. We're learning more, and that's strengthening the capabilities of our teams. And along the way, we have a coach that will be guiding the person through this routine, and we teach people how to be a coach for each other. So there's one person that is conducting the experiments and one person that's guiding them through this patterned routine of conducting experiments. So there's the coaching Kata is just 5 simple questions, but we're consistent with asking them every time we meet and talk about what you're working on. And when we do this, we're really building that ability to think scientifically so that we know when we try to overcome an obstacle, what worked and what didn't. And that helps us learn more about our organizations, about our processes. This really develops that scientific thinking. And people are much more engaged. So this level of engagement brings more people in towards working towards your strategic goals. And it creates pull in their learning. So in our manufacturing operations, we're often looking for opportunities where we can create pull rather than a push system whenever possible. So the same thing for our learning. When we are following this routine, it creates pull in the learning. So the individual says, hey, I have this obstacle. I'm not sure how to overcome it. I think maybe we need standardized work here, or maybe we need to focus on reducing the setup time in this particular work cell. So it'll create pull in their learning, and they will be learning what they need when they need it so they can overcome the obstacles and be moving closer and progressively toward that target condition. So all of these patterns, whether it's the TWI patterns of job instruction, job relations, job methods, or if it's the improvement in coaching Kata patterns, we're forming these grooves in our brains. Our neural pathways work very much like the wagon wheel ruts in a field as you go over. The first time you drive across the field in the springtime after the winter thaw, it's bumpy. You go a little slow at first because you're not sure what new rocks have popped up over the winter or new woodchuck holes have appeared. But if you follow that same pattern over and over again, these ruts in the field get deeper and deeper to a point where you can almost take your hands off of the handlebars as you're going across. So we introduce these patterns in a similar way. We're consistent, we're repetitive in the pattern, but it builds that muscle memory to the point where then the people begin to think and act this way very naturally, and it just becomes an integral part of the culture of your organization. Okay. All of the training for these programs incorporates this whole pyramid. Ultimately, reaching the point of kinesthetic learning where they're teaching others after their practice doing. So we introduce the topic, we show them the material and the content, we practice the pattern, or we demonstrate the pattern to them, and then they practice doing it, and then they go out and they do it with other people in the organization. So the effectiveness of the training is very high, and the retention of their learning and their application of it is higher than I think most other trainings that I know I've experienced. Oh, there's a letter C on the OCHing for application. So we will find that if you utilize these programs, you will get a very clear and definite ROI out of that experience. I know as a plant manager, I had sent people to training, and then it was great on Friday, at the end of Friday, when they said, oh yeah, it was a great training this week. And then when I see them on Monday, they're already back to the same habit and they haven't applied anything. And it's like, I just spent that money for what? So with this training, it's not the same way. We have the interactive classroom training. We get all the way to the place where they're teaching others after that classroom training is over. So they progress through this whole learning methodology. But then we follow up with them and have coaching just a few times so that it reinforces that learning in their own work environment, applying this to their own processes and tools so that it really becomes an ingrained habit. And the consistent results we are seeing with the organizations that have used them is that it sticks, and it does become part of the integral way that people work and think and act every day. So the different programs have different value in converting us from a bad work day to a good work day. So if you're struggling, with lost productivity to people not really knowing how to select priority or direction, then you might want to look at job instruction or job methods. If you're having a lot of scrap or defect, methods or instruction can help, and so can the improvement kata. So Tiffany and I and any others at CMTC can be happy to help guide you through looking at what are your pains of a bad work day and what suggestions there might be in helping you move from the left side to the right of having a better work day. The last closing remark is when it comes to retaining and attracting talent, one of the most powerful things we can do is anything as an organization that we can send people home at the end of the day where they go home and they can say, today was a good day at work. And if we look at that as our overall target condition, there's a lot that goes into making it possible for a person to say that today was a good day at work. Yeah, were our materials delayed in arriving? Yep. Did we have problems on a line? Was there an unplanned breakdown in the equipment? Yes. So problems still come up. But what makes for a good work day is that people know that they're part of a team. They know that they're respected and valued. They're able to contribute at their highest level. They're always able to develop their skills further and to grow and learn every day. They're not feeling stagnant. And regardless of which role they're providing in the organization, from an entry-level role all the way up to the senior levels, if people can have those needs being met, then every person can go home at the end of the day and say, today was a good day at work. That powerful message is going to help us in the future when our emerging workforces are sitting at the kitchen table watching us come home from work every day, and they see the satisfaction that we're getting out of our jobs, and the people that work with us are getting that same satisfaction. It will help inspire them to consider these exciting and rewarding careers available in manufacturing. But conversely, if we aren't achieving that condition of sending people home saying today was a good work day, then we're furthering this challenge that we also have with inspiring young people to come into these careers. So keep that in mind and consider if any of these programs would be helpful in doing that. And I took us almost to the end. I apologize. I don't know if there's any questions.
That's fine. That's fine, Lisa. That was a great presentation. So I'm going to give you a virtual handshake there. That was a lot of information in a short amount of time. And, one of the things I appreciated, what I'm hearing is everything is orbiting this idea of recruitment and retention, right? And so I'm glad you couched it in that terms. A lot of companies we go to, well, we're going to change the culture. Well, what are you doing? Oh, we're having Taco Tuesdays. Well, great, but that's not going to be enough, right? And so I'm glad that you couched it in the terms of job satisfaction, because, yes, you'll have lower defect rates and return rates, but the reality is you're also going to be able to retain your workforce. Does anyone, Sarah, if someone raises their hand through the chat, can you unmute them, or are there other questions that people want to enter?
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to unmute everybody, and feel
That could be
free.
interesting.
Or not actually. Actually, everyone is able to currently unmute themselves, if you'd like to ask a question. Or you can certainly use the chat feature to ask the question, and Kevin will relay it.
This is Tiffany. I have a quick question for Lisa as far as length of a project like this. Is this a 3-month deal or 6-month generally to take a company from start to finish? How long do you work with them?
Yeah, if you chose one of the programs, let's say the job instruction program, any one of these is its own program. It would be a week with the classroom portion. It could be spread out over 2 weeks if needed, but generally it's a week. And then the coaching sessions would be about 6 weeks after that. So you're looking at a six to 8 week total window from start to finish. But with the coaching sessions, it's each individual just a half an hour once a week. So it's a small footprint on their time. And we actually prefer to go right into their workplace and come to their work area. So we're not disrupting production or their other processes as much as possible. So you get a high reward out of that kind of interaction.
How receptive, Lisa, are the frontline workers to training? I mean, you talked about, why they would, and I would think that the receptivity to training would be pretty high. I mean, they feel like they're engaged and participating. Would that be a correct assumption, or do they just want to get on with their job?
Yeah, we find that people are very engaged because the way the program is delivered, it's very interactive. It actually relies on the interaction, and so we've gotten good at pulling that out. So when people, by the end of the session on the first day, if they were feeling like hostages being sent to training, by the end of the first day, they're looking forward to the next session, and there's a heavy amount of interaction with everybody in the class through the program. And the results that we get, we always survey people at the end, and we consistently get 9s and 10s on a 10 scale from people, and their comments are very favorable. They appreciated the engagement, their participation, the way they could contribute towards the learning of themselves and others. And when we deliver it in person, it's a no-tech class. We don't use PowerPoint. We're using the whiteboard or flip charts, and we keep it that way for a reason. It can be delivered virtually. We've done an awful lot of that through the pandemic, and that's been very successful. And so, of course, we'll have PowerPoint for that, but it's still highly engaging, and each person is demonstrating their application of the pattern in the classroom with their peers. So the engagement's very high.
Fantastic. So we're running up against 11 o'clock. I can't believe we got all through that in an hour. I thought we were going to end up going over. So I applaud you, Lisa, in going through that. Again, if you're interested in hearing more, Tiffany can wow, right on time. Either Tiffany or Lisa there can help you. Feel free to contact them. If you want to know more about Tech San Diego activities, you can always go to our website, techsd.org. And these are periodic meetings. We usually do once every other month. We have a manufacturing roundtable. So if you want to give us some ideas for topics, we're always receptive. And we will see you at the next Tech San Diego event. Sarah Spiva, our comms director and program person. Am I missing anything, Sarah?
No, thank you so much, Lisa and Tiffany, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Please make sure that you reach out to both of these very intelligent folks for information and resources. And definitely make sure to check the Tech San Diego calendar for more events like this in going forward.
Okay. Tiffany, stay on for a second after we stop recording, if you don't mind.
Thanks all.
Okay.